In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. You know, that opening line of The Great Gatsby. It always makes me think about perspective and how we see things. And today we're going to dive deep into The Great Gatsby. Even if you haven't read it since high school or maybe never even opened it, we're going to unpack why it still matters almost a century later.
It's so captivating about The Great Gatsby is it takes that simple idea of advice and just throws you right into this world of lavish parties and, hidden pasts. And that elusive American dream, it's the roaring 20s.
Yeah.
And on the surface, everything is glittering and glamorous, but Fitzgerald really peels back those layers, right? To reveal the complexities underneath it all.
Exactly, like Gatsby's parties.
Yeah.
Legendary, extravagant, full of people who barely even know him. But there's a reason for all that spectacle, though. There's a deep yearning at the heart of it all. And that's where our narrator, Nick Carraway, comes in. He's our eyes and ears in this world, an outsider just trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, Nick's perspective is so fascinating because he's both drawn to and repelled by what he sees at the same time. He comes from a more modest background, so he's initially captivated by Gatsby and just the allure of wealth. But as he gets closer to Gatsby, he starts to see the cracks in that facade, right? The emptiness behind those grand gestures.
Yeah, and that emptiness becomes even more apparent, I think, when we meet Daisy Buchanan, the object of Gatsby's obsession.
All right.
She's beautiful, she's charming, represents everything Gatsby desires. But she's also married to Tom Buchanan, who represents the old money elite. And let's just say their marriage is far from perfect.
Tom is a fascinating character because he embodies that dark side of privilege. He's entitled arrogant, completely oblivious to the consequences of his actions. And you see it especially with his affair with Myrtle Wilson, who's the wife of a gas station owner. It exposes that deep moral corruption beneath his polished exterior. And I think it's a reminder that wealth doesn't buy you happiness or morality.
Yeah, and Myrtle's story is so heartbreaking, right? She's trapped in this loveless marriage and sees Tom's world as like a way out, a chance for a better life. Do you think she represents a different side of the American dream? The side that can be more harmful than helpful?
Absolutely. I think it highlights the dangers of chasing illusions, of pinning your hopes on something that ultimately can't deliver. Both Gatsby and Myrtle, they're pursuing a dream that's flawed. It's built on this shaky foundation, and their pursuit has these tragic consequences.
It seems like everyone in this world is putting on an act.
Yeah.
Trying to project this image of wealth and happiness. But underneath it all, there's this sense of unease, like a feeling that everything is about to just crumble.
Yeah, and that's a key insight. Fitzgerald is masterful at showing how appearances can be deceiving, and each character is meticulously crafting this persona right, hiding their true selves behind this mask of wealth and sophistication. It makes you wonder, what are they so afraid of revealing? What are they sacrificing to maintain this facade?
Speaking of facades, Gatsby's is perhaps the most elaborate of all.
Right.
He throws these extravagant parties, surrounds himself with luxury, but it's all this attempt to recapture a lost love, a moment in time that he believes he can recreate. It's as if he's built this entire world just for Daisy.
Yeah, and that's where Gatsby's desperation becomes really apparent, right? He's poured all of his energy, his wealth, his very identity into this elaborate scheme to win Daisy back. And it raises an important question. Does he truly understand Daisy? Or has he idealized her to the point that she can no longer live up to his expectations?
And how do you think Nick factors into all of this? He becomes Gatsby's confidant, right? The one entrusted with this grand plan to reunite with Daisy.
Right. Nick's role is crucial because he's both a participant and an observer.
Okay.
He's drawn into Gatsby's world, tempted by that promise of wealth and excitement, but he also maintains a critical distance, allowing him to see the flaws and the cracks in that facade. He becomes our moral compass in a way, the voice of reason in a world that's kind of losing its way.
And that brings us to one of the most iconic symbols in literature, the green light. Gatsby would stand on his lawn, reaching out toward that green light at the end of Daisy's dock, almost as if he could bridge the gap between them with sheer willpower.
It's powerful, right? The green light represents that yearning Gatsby has for Daisy, for a past that he's trying to recapture, but it also embodies the promise of the American dream, right? That tantalizing hope for a better future that always seems just out of reach.
It's almost like a beacon of hope, but also a warning, wouldn't you say? Like a warning about the dangers of chasing illusions, of becoming so fixated on a single goal that we lose sight of everything else.
Precisely. The green light is both alluring and dangerous. It's a reminder that our desires can lead us down these unexpected paths, sometimes towards fulfillment, but other times towards heartbreak and disillusionment. And it's through Nick's eyes that we witness the full arc of Gatsby's journey, from that glimmering hope to the devastating fall.
And that's where things really start to get interesting.
And that's where the tension really starts to build. You know, Gatsby puts this elaborate plan into motion to reunite with Daisy and Nick to arrange this seemingly casual tea party. It's almost painful to watch Gatsby's anxiety, right? That desperate hope that this meeting will just rekindle their lost love.
Yeah, he's waited 5 years for this moment, poured all of his energy and resources into creating this perfect image, this grand illusion of who he is. And now it all hinges on this simple afternoon tea. Makes you wonder, right? Does Gatsby actually believe this facade? Or deep down, does he know it's all about to crumble?
That's the brilliance of Fitzgerald's writing, right? He leaves us questioning Gatsby's motives. Is he being genuine? Is he truly in love with Daisy? Or is he more in love with the idea of her? You know, that symbol that she represents.
And then there's the tea party itself. Talk about awkward. Gatsby is so nervous. He knocks over a clock, spills tea. He's practically tripping over his own feet. It's almost endearing to see this larger-than-life figure just kind of reduced to a bumbling mess in the presence of his love.
But there's also this sense of tragedy there, too, wouldn't you say? You can already see the disconnect between Gatsby's idealized version of Daisy and the woman she's become. 5 years have passed. They've both changed. And the past, as much as Gatsby wants to recapture it, is irretrievable.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to force a square peg into a round hole. And Daisy, she's clearly drawn to Gatsby, right? To the romance and excitement he represents. But she's also hesitant. Aware of the social chasm between them, the complications their affair would create.
And let's not forget about Tom, right? He's not oblivious to what's happening. He sees the connection between Gatsby and Daisy, and his jealousy and possessiveness start to simmer beneath the surface. That tension between them, it becomes almost palpable, like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode.
And explode it does. During that sweltering afternoon in New York City, that hotel room scene, it's like a pressure cooker. Emotions are boiling over, secrets are exposed, and illusions are shattered.
It's a pivotal moment in the novel. Gatsby, in his desperation to win Daisy over, reveals his true origins, right? His humble beginnings. He lays bare the truth behind the facade, the years of struggle and sacrifice he endured to build his fortune. And Tom, sensing an opportunity to discredit his rival, he seizes upon this revelation, uses it to humiliate Gatsby and expose him as a fraud.
It's devastating to watch Gatsby's carefully constructed world just crumble before his eyes. And Daisy, caught in the middle of this emotional tug-of-war, she's torn between her past love for Gatsby and the security and social standing that Tom provides. It's heartbreaking because you realize that no matter what choice she makes, someone will be left deeply wounded.
And the tragedy just deepens from there, right? The truth about Gatsby's past and his involvement in illegal activities comes to light, further tarnishing the image of the self-made man he so carefully crafted. The American dream, which Gatsby has so desperately pursued, is revealed to be tainted. Built on this foundation of lies and deception, it makes you question the very nature of success, doesn't it? What does it truly mean to achieve the American dream? Is it all about wealth and status, or is there something more to it?
Those are questions that I think still resonate with us today, right? We're still grappling with these same issues of social mobility, the allure of wealth and fame, and the compromises we make to achieve our goals.
Absolutely. And Fitzgerald's novel, it doesn't offer any easy answers. It simply presents these complexities and challenges us to confront them, to consider the human cost of ambition and the price we pay for chasing illusions.
And then there's Myrtle's death. It's so sudden, so shocking. It shatters the already fragile world of the novel.
That's a turning point, right? A moment of irreversible tragedy that sends these ripples of consequence throughout the remaining chapters. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of life, right? How quickly everything can change. And it also highlights that recklessness. The carelessness of the wealthy elite Daisy driving Gatsby's car is responsible for Myrtle's death. But she allows Gatsby to take the blame, further demonstrating those complexities of their relationship.
And Tom, he manipulates the situation, right? He preys on George Wilson's grief and directs his rage towards Gatsby. It's a chilling reminder of Tom's ruthlessness, his utter disregard for anyone who stands in his way.
In the aftermath of Myrtle's death, Gatsby retreats further into his world of memories. Clinging to the past as the present crumbles around him, he waits for Daisy, hoping she'll choose him. But deep down, he must know that their dream is slipping away. That illusion he's so carefully constructed, it's beginning to dissolve, revealing the tragic truth beneath.
It's almost as if the death of Myrtle becomes this catalyst, exposing the decay that's been festering beneath the surface all along. The characters are forced to confront the consequences of their actions, the lies they've told, the the pain they've inflicted.
And that leads us to that final devastating act, right? The climax of Gatsby's tragic journey.
Yeah, it all leads to that final heartbreaking scene. Gatsby, lost in his memories, is shot and killed by George Wilson, who mistakenly believes Gatsby's the one responsible for Myrtle's death.
Yeah, just a senseless act of violence fueled by grief and misinformation that really underscores the destructive power of illusion and those tragic consequences of Gatsby relentlessly pursuing a dream that was never truly attainable.
Right, and the emptiness of Gatsby's mansion after his death. It's almost symbolic, isn't it? All those lavish parties, the endless stream of guests, it all just vanishes, leaving this void that speaks volumes about the shallowness of that world he was living in.
It really does. And it's interesting, right, how few people actually show up to Gatsby's funeral. It kind of highlights how isolated he was despite being surrounded by all these people at his parties. Like his whole life was a performance. And once the curtain fell, the audience just moved on. Yeah. And that leaves Nick, right, to grapple with the aftermath, to try and make sense of this tragedy and the moral decay that he's witnessed. He becomes the voice of reason, reflecting on these events and offering this, sobering perspective on the American dream and just how corrupting it can be.
I think Nick's transformation throughout the novel is so fascinating. He starts as this kind of naive observer, drawn to the allure of Gatsby's world, but by the end, he's disillusioned. He sees the emptiness behind the facade and the destructive power of Gatsby's obsession.
Yeah, it's Nick who ultimately tells Gatsby's story, though, right? Ensuring that his dream, however flawed, isn't entirely forgotten. And through Nick's narration, Fitzgerald offers that powerful critique of a society consumed by materialism and, the pursuit of this elusive ideal.
We've talked a lot about the characters, the themes, the tragic ending. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to that green light. What are your final thoughts on its significance?
Well, the green light, it serves as this multifaceted symbol. On one hand, it represents Gatsby's longing for Daisy, that past he can't ever reclaim, but it also embodies the allure and the danger of the American dream, right? That constant striving for something more, something just beyond our grasp. It's a beacon of hope and a warning all at once.
It really makes you think about the green lights we chase in our own lives, doesn't it? Those goals, dreams, desires that drive us. Are they leading us toward fulfillment? Or are we just chasing illusions?
That's a question we should all ask ourselves, right? The Great Gatsby, I think, reminds us that chasing our dreams can be both exhilarating and dangerous. It's important to think about the path we're choosing, the compromises we're making, and the potential consequences of our actions.
So why does The Great Gatsby still resonate with us after all these years, almost a century later? What makes this story so enduring?
I think it speaks to those timeless desires we all have, right? The pursuit of love, the allure of wealth and status, that longing for the past, for something we can never fully get back. But it also serves as this cautionary tale about the dangers of those desires, the potential for disillusionment and heartbreak when we're chasing illusions.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in a world of glittering parties and champagne, there's this deep undercurrent of sadness, of longing, and ultimately of loss. And even those who seem to have it all can still feel profoundly lonely and unfulfilled.
The Great Gatsby is a story that really stays with you. It prompts us to reflect on our own values, our aspirations, the choices we make, when we're pursuing our dreams. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. It invites us to examine our own lives, our own green lights, and to consider the paths we're choosing to follow.
It's a journey worth taking, even if it takes us through some dark times and disillusionment. Because at its core, The Great Gatsby is a story about the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring power of hope, and that possibility of finding meaning and connection, even in a world that can often feel broken and disconnected.